Prudent Scholars in association with Goa Headmasters Association.
Good day, students. Welcome to the 10th standard. Let me begin the session with a quote of Nelson Mandela. Courage is not the absence of fear, but it is the conquest with it. What is this fear, my students? Have you experienced this fear within your mind? Well, let me define what is this fear. Fear is an unpleasant feeling that we experience when we perceive danger. And I'm sure you must have experienced this fear. I'm sure you must have been frightened in your life. All of us, we feel frightened in our life. All of us, we feel this fear. Whether it is a great personality or whether it is a sports star, we all have this fear within our mind. And all these great personalities, my students, they have the ability to face the fear. We all human beings, we have this innate capability to fight with our fear. We have this innate capability to face our fear, and that is why we are very, very different from the other animals. Even animals have fear, but they don't have the capability to bounce back. They don't have the capability like human beings to face their fear. But there might be some exceptions. And now you must be wondering, why am I telling you all these things about fear? Well, I'm telling you all these things about fear because we are going to learn a lesson today which is related to a seagull who is afraid to fly. So, let's deal with this chapter. The lesson is lesson number 3 from your English textbook, and the title of this lesson is 2 stories about flying. As the title suggests, this particular lesson has 2 stories. One, the first one, is His First Flight by O Flaherty, and the second story from this lesson is The Black Aeroplane by Frederick Forsyth. Today, we are only going to focus on this first story called as His First Flight by O Flaherty. Now, the title of this first story is very, very special, my students. And this title is very special because the title is His First Flight, and the name of your textbook as well is First Flight. And this title is very special, my students, because you will be taking your first step towards success. You will be answering your 10th standard exam sooner or later, and you have to take that first step now. And you need to be very courageous and brave when you will take this first step. So, if you are very determined, if you are very brave, and if you take a lot of efforts by studying very hard this year, then I'm sure you will achieve a lot of success. So, that's why the title of the story is very, very special. Now, the meaning of flight is the act of flying, and I'm sure that you will soar high by achieving great success. Now, this particular story deals with a young seagull who is afraid to fly. He has his own family. His family members support him, motivate him, but still the seagull is not ready to fly because it has lack of confidence and because it doesn't have that bravery within himself, and that's why it doesn't fly. So this was all about the background of this lesson. Now I'll move on to the introduction of the author. Now the author who has written this story is O Flaherty, and he is an Irish writer. He is an Irish novelist, and he is considered a major figure of the Irish Renaissance. He was born in August 1896 in the remote Irishmore Island, County Galway, and he died in September 1984 in Dublin. He attended a number of colleges and joined the Irish Guards in 1917. He also fought in the First World War on the Western Front, and he was injured and he suffered possible shell shock and mental collapse in 1930s. He returned to the front as a socialist, having been intrigued by Marxism as a schoolboy. So this Irish writer, he has written a number of English stories as well as novels, and he is very, very famous. Now, as the story is about a young seagull, I want you to know more about these seagulls. Okay? Now, these seagulls are very, very intelligent birds. They are typically medium to large birds, usually gray or white, often with black markings on the head or wings. Usually the wings of these birds are gray in color, okay? And they have harsh wailing or squawking calls. Their sound is very, very harsh. When these birds cheer up, their sound is very, very harsh, and they have a very, very rough sound. They are very stout and they have longish beaks and webbed feet. As you can see in this picture, this seagull is having webbed feet. They are found on every continent. And these birds are very, very intelligent, my friends. So these are the interesting facts about these seagulls. They are very, very clever and intelligent. They learn, remember, and even pass on behaviors such as stamping their feet in a group to imitate rainfall and trick earthworms to come to the surface. They can drink both fresh and soft water. Most animals are unable to do this, but seagulls have a special pair of glands right above their eyes, which is specifically designed to flush the salt from their systems through openings in the beak. So this was all about these seagulls who are very, very intelligent and clever. Now, this is just the brief background of the story. The story relates to a young seagull who is very, very afraid to fly. And this young seagull is afraid to fly because it just couldn't gather up the courage to fly. It has its wings, it has all its capabilities to fly, but then it just doesn't trust its wings. All his family members, they support this young seagull to fly from the cliff, but then it just doesn't fly. Okay? And his parents motivate him, also threaten him to fly, but then this seagull just doesn't fly. Same thing happens with human beings as well. When we were kids, when we were babies, our mother or our father, they used to motivate us to take our first steps. They used to motivate us to just walk or to run, and because of the efforts taken by our parents, we were able to walk when we were kids. So here as well, this young seagull, he is motivated by his parents, but still it is not able to walk or fly because it doesn't believe in himself. So if the seagull had believed in himself, then it would have taken a very good first flight. But then it encounters a lot of problems and difficulties, and that's why it takes time to fly. And in this lesson, we would see whether the young seagull was able to take its first flight or not. So let's begin this chapter. Now I'll be reading the story, and you can also see the new words on this screen. There are a lot of new words in this story. So as I proceed, you will be able to see these new words on the screen, and I have also displayed a lot of pictures of seagulls so that you will be able to understand this story in a better manner. Okay, so let's begin this story. His First Flight by O Flaherty. The young seagull was alone on his ledge. His two brothers and his sister had already flown away the day before. He had been afraid to fly with them. Somehow, when he had taken a little run forward to the brink of the ledge and attempted to flap his wings, he became afraid. The great expanse of sea stretched down beneath, and it was such a long way down, miles down. He felt certain that his wings would never support him. So he bent his head and ran away back to the little hole under the ledge where he slept at night. Even when each of his brothers and his little sister, whose wings were far shorter than his own, ran to the brink, flapped their wings and flew away, he failed to muster up courage to take that plunge which appeared to him so desperate. His father and mother had come around calling to him shrilly, upbraiding him, threatening to let him starve on his ledge unless he flew away. But for the life of him, he could not move. So this story revolves around the character of a young seagull. And remember, my students, that the narrator of the story is O Flaherty. And he is referring to this young seagull by using a muscular pronoun as he. So he has given human qualities to these birds. He has given human quality to this young seagull. So that's why he refers to this young seagull by referring to him by using a muscular pronoun as he. Usually we refer to the birds as well as animals by using a neuter pronoun called as it. But this writer, this narrator, O Flaherty, has used the masculine pronoun to refer to this young seagull. So the entire story revolves around the character of a young seagull, and this young seagull was all alone on the ledge. Now, what is the meaning of ledge? The meaning of ledge is a projecting part of a cliff. Okay, so here you can see a cliff over there on this picture. This is a ledge. Okay, and it is a projecting part of a cliff. So this young seagull was all alone on this cliff. It was all alone on the ledge, and he had a family of his own. Okay, so he had his loving parents and loving siblings. He had a father and mother, and he also had 3 siblings. He had 2 brothers and 1 sister. So all his siblings as well as his family members, they had already flown away from this ledge. His 2 siblings, his 2 brothers and 1 sister, they had already flown away because they had already learned flying. They had already taken their first flight. Okay, so that's why the seagull was all alone on the ledge, and it must be feeling very, very lonely and left out because it was all alone on the ledge. And it was all alone on the ledge because it was just afraid of flying. Then this young seagull, he had also attempted to fly. When his parents had told this young seagull to attempt his first flight, he had also attempted his first flight. The meaning of attempt is try. Okay, so he had also attempted to fly, and when he had attempted to fly, he had run towards the brink of the ledge. The meaning of brink is the extreme edge or the border of that cliff. So when he had tried to fly, what he had done was he had run towards the edge of the ledge and he had fluttered his wings. He had flapped his wings. The meaning of flap is move its wings. Okay, so this young seagull, he had also attempted to fly, and when he had attempted to fly, he had run towards the edge of the ledge and he had flapped his wings, and when he had flapped his wings, he was able to see the vast expanse of the sea just beneath the cliff. Just beneath the cliff, just below the cliff, this young seagull saw the vast stretch of sea, and that is why he became more afraid to fly. And that's why this young seagull, when he tried flying, he felt that his wings won't be able to support him, and he felt that he would sink in this deep sea if he tries flying. And that's why what he did was he just ran back towards the hole under the ledge where he slept every day. So these were the problems that this young seagull faced. Then he felt that his wings won't be able to support him, and then he just couldn't muster up the courage to fly. The meaning of muster is gather up the courage. Okay, so he just couldn't gather up the courage to fly, and that's why he was just not able to fly. Then he remembered about the first flight which was taken by his siblings. As you know, this young seagull had 2 brothers and 1 sister, and they were very, very successful when they had taken their first flight. So all his siblings, when they had taken their first flight, they had run towards the brink of the ledge, they had run towards the edge of the cliff, and they had also fluttered their wings, they had also moved their wings, and they had taken their first flight. But all his siblings, their wings were far shorter than his own wings. But still, his siblings had managed to soar high in the sky. But this particular seagull, because he had this lack of confidence, because he just couldn't gather up the courage to fly, he just remained on the cliff. All his siblings as well as his parents, they were upbraiding him, they were motivating him, and they were also scolding him. Okay, the meaning of upbraiding is scolding. So his parents, all this while his parents were scolding him to fly. And his parents had adopted a lot of strategies so that this young seagull would fly. As our parents as well, they adopt a lot of strategies so that we will become successful in life. Same thing, these parents of this young seagull, they were motivating him and they were adopting a lot of strategies so that this young seagull could fly. So all this while his parents were scolding him, upbraiding him. They were convincing him to fly, and they had also threatened him. They had also threatened him to fly, and his parents had also given a warning to this young seagull that if you don't fly from the edge of the cliff, then we would keep you hungry on this ledge. So this was the warning given to this young seagull by his parents, and that's why this young seagull was all alone on the ledge and it was very, very hungry. Okay, so let's move on to the next paragraph. Before moving on to the next paragraph, the meaning of shrilly is high-pitched voice. Okay, so his parents, when they were scolding this young seagull, they were threatening him, they were scolding him by using a very, very threatening sound, by using a very, very piercing big sound. Okay, so all these things were faced by the young seagull. Okay, now let's move on to the next paragraph. We will see what happens to the young seagull next. That was 24 hours ago. Since then, nobody had come near him. The day before, all day long, he had watched his parents flying about with his brothers and sister, perfecting them in the art of flight, teaching them how to skim the waves and how to dive for fish. He had in fact seen his older brother catch his first herring and devour it, standing on a rock while his parents circled around, raising a proud cackle. And all the morning, the whole family had about on the big plateau midway down the opposite cliff, taunting him with his cowardice. So all these problems were faced by the young seagull 24 hours ago. So just the 24 hours ago, his parents had scolded him. His parents had upbraided him to fly. But then, because this young seagull was very, very afraid of flying, he just didn't move from that particular ledge. And all these things happened 24 hours ago. And since then, nobody had come near the seagull. So seagull was facing this loneliness because nobody had come near the seagull from the last 24 hours. And then the seagull remembered what had happened in his life as well as the life of his siblings just the day before. He remembered the happenings of the day before. And when he remembered the happenings of the day before, he remembered that his parents were teaching his siblings the art of flying. His parents were teaching his siblings the art of flying just above the surface of the sea. The meaning of skim is to just move or to just fly above the surface of the sea. As this bird is flying, as this young seagull is flying, this young seagull is flying just above the surface of the sea. So the parents of this young seagull were teaching the siblings of the young seagull how to just fly above the surface of the sea. And his parents were also teaching his siblings how to catch their fish, how to catch the fish in the sea. And in fact, his elder brother had already learned fishing. His elder brother had already caught a fish called as herring. The meaning of herring is a soft-finned fish which is found in the sea. So his elder brother had already caught a herring, and his family members, his parents, were very, very happy because his elder brother had caught this fish called as herring. And that's why his parents were very, very proud of his elder brother, and that's why they raised a cackle. The meaning of cackle is to laugh with a broken loud sound. Because his parents were very, very happy with the performance of his elder brother, they had a very, very good laugh. They had a very, very loud laugh because they were very, very proud of his elder brother. Okay, and then presently all his family members, they had all gathered on a big plateau just opposite of the cliff, and all his family members, they were just laughing. They were laughing on this young seagull. They were taunting this young seagull. They were making fun of this young seagull because this young seagull had not attempted his first flight. And that's why all his family members were making fun of him. The meaning of taunt is to make fun of. Okay, so his family members were making fun of him because he had not taken his first flight. The same thing happens with us as well. Sometimes we see and hear from our colleagues. Sometimes our colleagues make fun of us. Sometimes our parents make fun of us because our parents as well as our friends, they want to provoke us to do something better in our lives. So that is why we always need to take the criticism or fun very positively. So because these family members of this young seagull wanted to provoke this young seagull to fly, that is why they were making fun of him. So this was all about this paragraph. I hope that you have gone through these words. Elder brother of this young seagull was eating the fish. He was devouring the fish. The meaning of devour is he was eating the fish in a very, very hungry manner. He was eating the fish in a very, very greedy manner. And that's why his parents were very proud of his elder brother because his elder brother had caught the fish for the first time in his life. And that's why they were raising a cackle. That's why they were making a big sound. So this was all about this paragraph. We'll move on to the next paragraph now. The sun was now ascending the sky, blazing on his ledge that faced the south. He felt the heat because he had not eaten since the previous nightfall. Now here we get to know that the sun was ascending in the sky. The meaning of ascending is the act of rising up through the air, the act of going higher and higher. So what was happening was the sun was going higher and higher in the sky. The sun was going upwards, And as you know that the seagull was alone on the ledge, the entire cliff had become very, very hot because of the scorching heat of the sun. So because of the scorching heat of the sun, the entire ledge had become very, very hot, and the young seagull was also feeling very, very hungry because it had not eaten since the previous night. The young seagull was hungry for 24 hours, and that's why this young seagull was feeling very, very anxious, and it was feeling very, very restless. The same thing happens with human beings as well. The same thing happens with us as well. When we get back to our home from the school, and if our mother doesn't give us the food, then we get very, very restless, and then we shout on our mother, or we do something or the other because we feel very, very restless. And the same thing happens with this young seagull as well. All this while, this young seagull was all alone on the ledge, and it was feeling very, very hungry, and that's why it was feeling very, very restless. And then we will see what happens to this young seagull. As this young seagull was feeling very, very restless and hungry, it wanted to catch the attention of his parents. The seagull wanted his parents to look at him. The same thing happens with us as well. You must have observed the kids. If the kids want to catch the attention of their parents, then they either start crying, or they start jumping, or they do all sorts of things to catch the attention of their parents. So here the seagull as well wants to catch the attention of his parents, and he wants to catch the attention of the parents because he is feeling very, very hungry. The seagull wants his parents to give him food, and that's why it is trying to catch the attention of his parents. And this is what we will see in this paragraph now. He stepped slowly out of the brink of the ledge, and standing on one leg with the other leg hidden under his wing, he closed one eye, then the other, and pretended to be falling asleep. Still, they took no notice of him. He saw his two brothers and his sister lying on the plateau, dozing with their heads sunk into their necks. His father was preening the feathers on his white back. Only his mother was looking at him. She was standing on a little high hump on the big plateau, her white breast thrust forward. Now and again, she tore at a piece of fish that lay at her feet, and then scraped each side of her beak on the rock. The sight of the food maddened him. How he loved to tear food that way, scraping his beak now and again to wet it. Now, as you all know, this young seagull wanted to catch the attention of his parents, and he adopted a lot of strategies to catch the attention of his parents. What he did was, this young seagull, he just went towards the edge of the cliff. He just walked towards the edge of the ledge. And when he walked towards the edge of the ledge, he just stood there. And he stood on his one leg. The young seagull stood on his one leg, and he kept his other leg hidden in his wings. And then he just closed his one eye and then the other one. And he pretended that he was sleeping. The meaning of pretended is just acting. He acted that he was sleeping. And he was doing all these things because he wanted his parents to look at him. So that's why he just acted, he pretended that he was sleeping, by closing his eyes, and he just stood on one leg. But when he did this, unfortunately, his parents just did not look at him. His parents were just not interested in him. His parents were busy doing their chores. And that's why when he saw that his parents did not look at him, he felt very, very bad. And then the young seagull started observing his parents and siblings. He first saw his siblings. When he saw his siblings were dozing. His siblings were nicely sleeping on the big plateau, which was just opposite of the cliff. So his siblings were nicely sleeping. They were peacefully sleeping. Then he saw his father. His father was busy preening his feathers. Now the meaning of preening is the act of cleaning the feathers, or to tidy and clean its feathers. Okay, so his father was busy cleaning his feathers. His father was busy maintaining his feathers, and then he saw his mother. What his mother was doing? His mother was nicely standing on a big hump. The meaning of a hump is a raised structure of a stone. So his mother was nicely standing on a hump, and the mother was eating the fish. The mother had placed the fish in between her feet, and she was busy eating the fish. She was busy devouring this fish. And while she was eating the fish, she was also scraping her beak. Now, the meaning of scraping is discard. Okay, so while his mother was eating the fish, she was removing the unwanted parts of the fish by rubbing her beak on a stone. Okay, so while his mother was eating the fish, she was discarding, she was removing the unwanted parts of the fish by rubbing her beak on the stone. And when the young seagull saw his mother eating the fish, he got mad by hunger. He was maddened with hunger. He became very, very restless to eat that fish. He wanted that fish by hook or crook. So when he saw the sight of food, he became mad with hunger. He just wanted to eat that fish which was eaten by his mother. And that's why he became mad with hunger. And then he remembered how he used to eat the food which was given to him by his mother. When this young seagull was eating his food, he used to eat it in a very good manner, and while he used to eat the food, he used to tear the fish, and he also used to discard off the unwanted things of the fish by just rubbing his beak onto the stone. And he also used to sharpen his beak while eating the fish. So this young seagull remembered how he loved to tear the fish and how he loved to sharpen his beak while eating the fish. So now the young seagull became very, very hungry when he saw this fish which was eaten by his mother. And that's why he became very, very mad with hunger. And then we will see what happens to this young seagull. "Ga, ga, ga," he cried, begging her to bring him some food. "Gao kol ah," she screamed back derisively. But he kept calling plaintively, and after a minute or so, he uttered a joyful scream. His mother had picked up a piece of the fish and was flying across to him with it. He leaned out eagerly, tapping the rock with his feet, trying to get nearer to her as she flew across. But when she was just opposite to him, she halted, her wings motionless, the piece of fish in her beak almost within the reach of his beak. He waited a moment in surprise, wondering why she did not come nearer, and then, maddened by hunger, he dived at the fish. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into the space. And then we get to know, as this young seagull had become maddened with hunger, when this young seagull had seen the piece of fish in the beak of his mother, he became very, very mad with hunger, and that's why he became very, very restless. He just wanted to eat the food, and that's why this young seagull, he started crying for food. He started begging for food, and that's why he started removing all sorts of sounds. He started chirping, and he started crying by saying ga ga ga. Okay, so this young seagull, he started crying, he started begging for food. He wanted his mother to look at him, and that's why he started crying. And when this young seagull started crying, his mother gave him a stern reply. His mother gave him a reply that he was very, very stupid. Okay, his mother also replied back, and she said, "Gav kol a." Okay, means that the mother gave a very stern remark to him, and the mother said to him that he was very, very stupid. But still, this young seagull kept on crying very, very bitterly. The meaning of plaintively is crying sorrowfully or bitterly. Because this young seagull had not received his food, he started crying in a very, very bitter manner. He kept crying because he wanted his mother to look at him. He kept crying because he wanted his mother to feed food to him. And that's why he kept on crying. And within just 1 minute, this young seagull became very, very happy, and he became very happy because he saw his mother approaching towards him. And when he saw his mother approaching towards him, coming towards him, this young seagull became very, very happy. And he started singing. He started singing, and he started tapping his feet. He started tapping his legs onto the ground because he became very, very restless. He just wanted to eat that food which was in the beak of his mother. So when his mother started coming towards him with a piece of fish in her beak, this young seagull became very, very happy, and he became anxious to eat the food. And that's why he became very, very excited. And then when his mother came closer to him, what the mother did was, the mother just took a halt. His mother just stopped flapping her wings, and she just took a halt. And she maintained a little distance from this young seagull. As you can see in this picture, when this mother of the young seagull came towards this young seagull, she came very near to him but then she maintained a very small distance. She just took a halt. She just stopped for a while and she stopped fluttering her wings. And when she just took a halt by placing the fish in a beak, this young seagull wondered why her mother had taken this halt. When this mother of the young seagull, when she takes this halt, when she maintains a small distance from her as well as the young seagull, this young seagull wondered why his mother has taken this halt. And when his mother takes this halt, when his mother just stops abruptly by keeping a distance, by keeping a small distance, this young seagull, he becomes more anxious, he becomes more restless, and then he dives, he jumps towards the fish, which was placed in the beak of his mother. And when he attempts to dive near the fish, when he dives towards the fish which was placed in his mother's beak, what happens is he just starts falling. He just starts falling from the brink of the ledge. So when he attempts to dive at the fish which was placed in the beak of his mother, when he jumps towards the fish, his mother just goes back, and this young seagull is not able to catch the fish which is placed in the beak of his mother, and that's why he starts falling. He falls down from the cliff. And then we'll see what happens. With a loud scream, he fell outwards and downwards into space. Then a monstrous terror seized him and his heart stood still. He could hear nothing, but it only lasted a minute. The next moment, he felt his wings spread outwards. The wind rushed against his breast feathers, then under his stomach and against his wings. He could feel the tips of his wings cutting through the air. He was not falling headlong now. He was soaring gradually downwards and outwards. He was no longer afraid. He just felt a bit dizzy. Then he flapped his wings once and he soared upwards. Ga, 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 gaukol, ah, his mother swooped past him, her wings making a loud noise. He answered her with another scream. Then his father flew over him screaming. He saw his two brothers and his sister flying around him, curvating, banking and soaring and diving. So when this seagull dived to catch the fish which was in the beak of his mother, he just fell downwards from the cliff. And when he fell downwards and outwards from the cliff, he experienced terror in his heart. He experienced fright in his heart. He became very, very scared, and he was just not able to hear his heartbeat. And then he experienced this terror for about a minute. And then he felt, and then he was able to feel the wind. Then he was able to feel the wind on his feathers. He was able to feel the wind on his chest, and he realized that the tips of his wings were cutting the wind. He realized that he was able to fly. The young seagull realized that he was soaring higher and higher. The young seagull realized that he was going upwards in the sky and he was not falling down. He realized that he was not falling down and he realized that he was able to fly. And when he realized that he was able to fly, he became very, very confident. He became very confident of himself when he realized that he was able to fly. And he was very, very surprised at himself, because all this while this young seagull was feeling that he won't be able to fly. But then when he realized that his tips of the wings were cutting the wind, when he realized that he was going upwards, he felt that he can fly now. And he also saw that his wings had spread outwards. He realized that automatically his wings had spread outwards and his wings were going up and down. He was flapping his wings up and down. And when he realized that his wings were automatically flapping, he realized that he was able to fly. And that's why he became very, very confident. And gradually and slowly he went above. Gradually and slowly he went up in the sky. He went up in the sky and he also realized that his wings were gradually going upwards and downwards. And now this young seagull was no longer afraid. He was no longer frightened now. He just forgot his fear. He became very, very confident and he started believing in his wings. He started trusting his wings. And then, just for a minute or so, he just felt a bit dizzy. The meaning of dizzy is when you feel a little unconscious for a while, or the meaning of dizzy is when you feel you will lose your balance. When you have a feeling of losing your balance, then it is called as dizzy. Just for a moment, this young seagull felt that it was losing its balance, but then it gained momentum and it gained his flight, and he was able to fly in a very, very confident manner. And that's why, because this young seagull was able to fly confidently now, all his family members just came near this young seagull and they started singing. His mother started singing because she became very, very happy when she saw his young seabird flying. So that's why she became very, very happy and she started singing. She started singing ga ga ga. Okay, and this seagull also started singing. Okay, both his mother as well as this young seagull, both of them, all his family members, they started singing because their young seagull had started flying. At last this young seagull had learned the art of flight, and that's why all his family members were happy, and that's why all of them were singing. His young seagull also started singing, and he started singing ga ga ga, and then he saw his mother coming towards him. The meaning of swooped is moving rapidly in the air. And then this young seagull saw his mother coming towards him. He saw his mother overtaking him by going through the air in a very, very smooth manner, in a very, very swift manner. And then he also saw his father. His father also joined him in the sky, and his father was also screaming. His father was also singing because they were very, very proud of this young seagull. And then he also saw his siblings. He also saw his 2 brothers and 1 sister. Now, these siblings of the young seagull, they were also doing all sorts of motions in the sky. They were also doing all sorts of movements in the sky because they wanted to celebrate the first flight of this young seagull. So that's why they started moving in the sky in a very, very good manner. So he saw that his siblings were curvating in the sky. The meaning of curvating is to leap like a horse, okay? So his siblings, they were curvating in the sky. They were leaping like a horse in the sky, or they were flying very, very swiftly around him. Then his siblings, they were also banking in the sky. The meaning of banking is when you fly by the support of one wing. When you fly with one wing higher than the other, then it is called as banking. So his siblings were also making use of their one wing while flying, and their one wing was higher than the other wing when they were flying. So all his siblings, they were making all sorts of motion in the sky. They were curvating, they were banking, and they were also diving in the sky. They were also jumping in the sky because they were very, very happy for this young seabird. And then we will move on to the next paragraph. Then he completely forgot that he had not always been able to fly, and commended himself to dive and soar and curve, shrieking shrilly. And then this young seagull became very, very happy because at last he had learned flying. And then he completely forgot that he was not able to fly. He completely forgot that he was a failure when he had taken this first flight. So he completely forgot that he had not learned flying. He completely forgot that he was not able to fly. And then this young seagull, he started singing. He started curvating in the sky. He started diving and jumping in the sky. And he also flew in a very swift manner in the sky because he was very, very happy. And he also started making a lot of sound. He started making big sound because he was very, very happy. And then he also congratulated himself. He commended himself. The meaning of commended is congratulated. Okay? He just gave a pat on his back because he had at last learned flying. Okay? And that's why this young seagull became very, very happy. And then we will move on to the next paragraph. He was near the sea now, flying straight over it. Facing straight over the ocean, he saw a vast green sea beneath him, with little ridges moving over it, and he turned his beak sideways and cawed amusedly. And as you know, this young seagull had already learned flying. He was singing and he was very, very happy now. And now this young seagull was just above the surface of the sea. He was just flying over the green sea. The sea which was beneath him was green in color. And when he was flying, he was just flying above the green surface of the ocean. And while this young seagull was flying, he just saw the vast stretch of the green sea. And he also saw the little ridges over it. The meaning of ridges is he saw the topmost part of the waves when he was flying over this green sea. He also saw the rocky formation in this sea when he was flying. And now he was completely happy because at last he was facing his fear and he had forgotten, he forgot that he did not know flying, and that's why he was very, very happy. And now he just turned his beak sideways and he started singing. He started singing very, very pleasantly. The meaning of amusedly is he was very, very happy, pleasant. He started singing very, very happily because now he was just flying above the surface of the sea, which was very, very green. And then we will see what happens to this young seagull. His parents and his brothers and sister had landed on this green flooring ahead of him. They were beckoning to him, calling shrilly. He dropped his legs to stand on the green sea. His legs sank into it. He screamed with fright and attempted to rise again, flapping his wings. But he was tired and weak with hunger, and he could not rise. Exhausted by the strange exercise, his feet sank into the green sea, and then his belly touched it, and he sank no farther. He was floating on it, and around him his family was screaming, praising him, and their beaks were offering him scraps of dogfish. He had made his first flight. And then we get to know that as this young seagull was flying just above the surface of this green sea, he was feeling very, very happy and delighted, and that's why he was singing. And while he was singing, all his family members, they had already gone towards the sea. They had already landed on the sea. His all family members were already floating on that particular green sea, and all his family members were beckoning to him. The meaning of beckon is invite. Okay, all his family members were inviting him to float on this green sea. And this young seagull, he accepted this invitation by his family members and he went towards the surface of the sea. The young seagull went towards the surface of the sea and he started dropping his legs in the sea. When he started dropping his legs on the sea, when he started dropping his legs on the surface of the sea, he was again scared. He was again terrified because he felt that he might sink into the water. He felt that he would submerge in the water. And that's why he started fluttering his wings again to rise up from the surface of the sea. But when he started fluttering his wings once again, he was too tired and he was too exhausted. And because he was hungry for long, long hours, he just could not rise up again. And then he decided that he will drop his legs into the sea. And then slowly and steadily, this young seagull, he dropped his legs into the sea water, and then he felt that he would just sink into the sea. But then when his belly touched on the sea water, when his belly touched on the surface of the sea, he realized that he just did not sink. When his belly touched the sea water, he realized that he just did not sink into the water, and that's why he became very, very happy. All his family members also became very, very delighted because at last this young seagull had learned flying as well as floating on the sea. And that's why, as a token of love and as a token of gratitude, they gave him a piece of fish. They gave him the scraps of dogfish. As a gift, their parents as well as all the family members, they gave him the pieces of dog fish. And all his family members gathered around this young seagull to celebrate his victory. And at last, the young seagull was very, very happy now because it had successfully taken his first flight. And this is the end of this story. I hope you have understood this story, and I hope you have followed all these new words as well as these pictures. Now, I will just give you the summary of this story. As you know, this story revolves around the character of this young seagull. This young seagull was feeling very, very afraid, and it was feeling very, very afraid because it just did not gather up the courage to fly. So, in the initial part of the story, we see that the young seagull was afraid of flying, and that's why it experienced failure. And this young seagull experienced failure because it had lack of confidence. Because it did not have any confidence, it did not fly. Because his mind was enveloped with fear, it just did not fly. And this young seagull was unwilling to take risk, and that's why it just did not fly. But because of the trap that was led by his mother, he was able to fly, and then he achieved success. He had a need of food. He wanted to have food, and because of this need to have food, he eventually fell down, and then he was able to fly. And there was also encouragement from his parents. Because his parents kept on motivating him, he was able to fly. And then this young seagull also had this quality of perseverance when it started learning flying. And then this young seagull was determined to fly, and that's why it achieved success. Now we will just look at some important questions that might feature in the examination. Okay, so these are just the important questions that might feature in your exam. Okay, so here is a type of a question which might appear in your paper. With reference to the text, complete the following in about 10 words each. So here a statement will be given, and you will have to complete this statement. So here, for example, the young seagull could not fly as he was certain that his wings would never support him. So you will have to complete this statement within just 10 words. Here is the second statement. Mother of the young seagull halted at a distance from him with food in the beak so as to force the seagull to fly. So you need to complete this statement by just writing the statement in 10 words. Here is the second type of question that might feature in the English paper. The second type of question is answer the following questions in about 20 words each. You will have to write the answers to these questions in just 20 words. And you can also write the answers in just 2 or 3 points. So here are these questions. How did the parents try to make the young seagull fly? How did the young seagull make his first flight? When did a monstrous terror seize the young seagull? You will have to write these answers just within 20 words. And then there is the third type of question which might feature in your paper. Read the following extracts and answer the following question that follows in about 30 words each. So here a line from your textbook will appear, and based on this line there will be a question. Based on this extract there will be a question. So here is a line from this particular lesson. His father and mother had come around calling to him shrilly, upbraiding him. So this is the extract, or this is the line from the lesson, and this is the question based on this line. Why did the parents of Seagull coaxed and scolded him? So here you'll have to write this answer within just 30 words. I hope you have followed this lesson, and I hope that you will remove the fear from your mind, and I hope you will achieve a lot of success in your life. Thank you very much.